start by having you say your complete name.
Robert E. Carlson. I'm always known as Bob, however.
And your Army serial number.
3770-2224.
And your dates of service in the 10th Mountain Division.
I joined July 9th, 1943, and I got out in December of 43.
And your highest,
45.
And highest rank served?
Highest rank served? PFC. I alternated between private and PFC.
Okay. Bob, tell me how you came to serve in the 10th Mountain Division.
Well, I learned how to ski in 1940 and went to Winter Park, Colorado, and they had what they call a junior ski patrol. So we high schoolers could go and help the national ski patrollers in those days, assist them in various ways that we could. And so by 1943, I was graduating from high school, and you had to get 3 letters of recommendation, so I had built-in letters of recommendation from the national ski patrollers. And these were very prominent names, and so that immediately was the way they accepted.
Tell me a little bit about boot camp.
Well, we did have training up at Camp Hale, and it was not exactly the same as boot camp in other places because it was more like the regular mountain training, oriented us to the mountain training. But we just had to learn the basics of what soldiers do. Nothing very serious about it. It was just what we had to do.
When you think back to your time at Camp Hale, can you think of some experiences that really stand out?
Oh yeah, the one time I got in trouble. We were out standing this was like in about December of 43. We're standing out and reveille, like 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're standing out there freezing, and it's kind of stormy and everything, and we were just suffering. So I said, "Give me liberty or give me death." And the sergeant said, "Who said that?" And I said, "Well, I think it was Patrick Henry." But all the guys laughed, but the sergeant didn't really care for that at all.
How about experiences in D-Series?
Well, that was really a kind of a serious thing because it got extremely cold, and if you didn't know how to use your sleeping bag effectively or put boughs under it and things, you could have a really miserable experience. But we kind of destroyed a lot of tree limbs up there and denuded these trees of any limbs you could reach so we could insulate ourselves from the snow below. And so one thing you definitely had to do is we had these double bags. They were good. An outer bag and then an inner mummy bag. So those were great. But the thing you had to absolutely do is take your boots inside because those darn things would be blocks of ice and they'd be worthless to you the next day if you left them out. So that was it, and you had to sleep with these darn boots, and they were big, heavy clodhoppers, And they weren't very good ski boots, but that's all we had.
Describe what D-Series was like.
Well, we went up there and started. See, this was like mock warfare. So we had, a couple of different teams there, and one was trying to attack the other, and they had referees out there, and they determined whether you had attacked successfully against the other group. And if you maneuvered around and surprised them or something, then the referees would give you points like you actually did something to kind of either capture them or kill them or do something. So that's the way that worked. Now, there's all these referees constantly roaming around, and these were just kind of some of the expert people from mountain training group and things like that were referees. The mountain training group was the people they assembled that were the best skiers and mountaineers in the world. I mean, God, we had practically every good skier in the United States, it seemed like to me, and it's fun to meet those guys.
What were they like?
Well, you mean like people? Well, Herbie Schneider was in our regiment. And he's the son of Hannes Schneider, who was the father of modern skiing in St. Anton, Austria. I mean, this is the type of guy. And Friedel Pfeiffer was an Austrian ski champion, and we had just all kinds of people that were extremely talented as far as mountaineering and skiing.
Well, that was the best explanation I've ever heard of the D-Series, like what the purpose was.
Well, yeah.
I don't think I'd ever.
Well, that was the purpose was to train us to be under sort of almost actual combat conditions and decide whether you were doing things correctly to attack somebody else.
What sort of stressors or pressures were on you?
Oh no, that we know it wasn't real, so we didn't know we were going to think we were going to get injured or killed or anything. But it was just the way you maneuvered around and against this supposed enemy was really friends of ours. But you were trying to put them in an unfortunate position.
That's the best explanation.
Okay, well, that's what the whole purpose was. And it was 6 weeks long. Now, the first month was just terrible snow, it's snowy and cold, very cold. And then the last 2 weeks were nice. And we actually went down in Homestake Creek, which is down below, and we just had a nice time down there because it was springtime. Springtime conditions down there. But the first part of it was pretty rugged. And of course, it was some of the maneuvers were way up above timberline, and 11,000, 12,000 feet. But the place we were, it seemed to be in the woods near timberline all the time.
How about if you talk a little bit about some of the people that were in 86L with you? Yes,
we had outstanding people there. Now, there's Benjamin Duke, Ben Duke, of the Colorado Denver Library fame. Actually, Ben was probably about the smartest guy I met anywhere in the division. And when I got there, I got into the same platoon with him, and he was an inspiration to me. He had been to Williams College and had some college and everything, and. After the war, what happened was that he got wounded in the hand fairly badly near the end and couldn't really write with his hand. He had visions of going to Harvard Business School. And so since he couldn't write, then he decided, well, I better get a job. And he wound up at Gates Rubber Company. And of course, eventually he became the only non-Gates person that's been a president of that organization.
How about John Winchester?
John Winchester, the best soldier that we had. And the only trouble was when we were getting ready to move to Camp Swift, he sent some weapons through the mail, and that got him broken from, a technical sergeant, which is, of course, the highest sergeant except first sergeant. And he got sent to B Company 86. Well, what happened when he got down there? He immediately went back to technical sergeant because they knew his reputation, what a fantastic soldier he was.
What was it about him that made him such a...
It's just that, he was an Indian, and he could do things that we couldn't somehow. I don't know. He just had a sense about how to do what soldiers are supposed to do, and everybody knew it. And we were just sick that he got sent off from us because he got 2 silver stars. And not too many people did that. Some people got 1, but 2, and a lot of people got bronze stars. But silver stars were really reasonably hard. You had to do something pretty outstanding to get that. And then we had hardly any distinguished service crosses. There was one fellow, John Craig, who became one of my fraternity brothers up at Colorado University after the war, that got the Distinguished Service Cross, and of course John McGrath, everybody was like the Medal of Honor, but. Very, very few of that rank, but very, very few got 2 silver stars.
Could you attribute any of his natural soldiering skills to him being Native American?
Yes, absolutely. Because these people knew how to survive in the wild and handle themselves really, really well in that regard. And, he could sneak around like they do things that we couldn't. Just because he had Indian instincts. So how about that?
In a good way. Well, what can you tell us about Stuart Abbott?
Stuart Abbott was very intelligent. He was always, thinking about nature, and that was his thing. And I think he would have been a great naturalist if he had lived. And we were very sad when he died, and he's probably the tallest guy we ever saw in the tent too. But
was he much of a note taker?
Oh yeah, I think he was doing that all the time. As far as nature is concerned, he was very interested in that sort of thing. Mm-hmm.
Can you think of any particular stories that might involve him?
Well, no, it's just he was a very good friend of mine, and he called me Alpini Carlson because I was so interested in rock climbing and skiing and things. So that's what he called me. And Stuart, really didn't know how to ski until he learned somewhat up there, and I have one picture from behind of a guy getting on a lift. I know it must be him because it's so towering, tall person from the backside. And I'm pretty sure that must be Stuart. They're getting on the lift at Cooper Hill.
What was it like watching him learn to ski?
Well, yeah, he was in the same platoon, so it was the worst the worst time was Lieutenant Kimbrough, and his brother was an All-American football player in Mississippi. He came up there, and he came out of OCS, and he'd never even seen snow in his life, because you can imagine somebody trying to lead us who'd never even seen snow. And I don't know how in the world he ever got into that, but I never talked to him about that. But I'd like to find out how he got in there. But the guy was a disaster on skis. And here all those guys that knew how to ski kind of made him feel foolish because he was supposed to be leading us.
How did you end up injured or in the hospital?
Well, I had an acute case of gastroenteritis. I know I ate something. I couldn't hold any food down. Now, this was just a week before the attack happened. You know, I was up Curciola, and we were up there. Patrols were going on up there from January 23rd on to early February. And then
I was going to have you pick it up from talking about from when you were hospitalized.
Oh, I was. We went back to a rest area after leaving Curciola, and somehow or another, I ate something or did something, but I got a terrific case of gastroenteritis, and that's where you throw up and you can't eat anything. You become extremely weak. So I had to go to the hospital down at Montecatini and get cured, and so. I don't know, I guess it was lucky maybe that I didn't have to go through attack, but I got back after Della Terrazia. And then I was in such a weakened condition, they put me guarding barrack bags in Gaggio, Montana, the company's barrack bags, and they were in a garage in a house in Gaggio, and so I lived in the garage with my rifle and the barracks bags with his family. But they had me in for dinner and all this stuff, and it was really wonderful. Really wonderful. And I've been friends with those people ever since. In fact, I just visited them with her yesterday. The lady of the house, she's 91 now, and Adelpho Braza, who is my friend that was a 6-year-old that used to help me in the tub, take a bath. I got in a tub of hot water, and he scrubbed my back. And so we've become friends all since, and we've had a great, every time we come back, we do things and talk. It's nice.
Can you give me your opinion on what the 10th Mountain contributed?
To the war?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes. Before we arrived, all these flatland infantry outfits kept attacking, Belvedere, because they actually, like in September and all, they'd moved. The Gothic line had moved way up here into the mountains, and so these outfits did attempt to attack Belvedere, but with Riva Ridge there and the direct sight on the thing, it was impossible. They couldn't do it. And of course, they wouldn't be equipped to attack Riva Ridge either. So this is the only way that General Hayes figured that we could make a breakthrough, is to get rid of those guys up there on Riva Ridge. And so it took especially training and these mountaineering type guys to attack all during the night and get up there and surprise these guys, and that's exactly what happened. And so without that breakthrough, and if these other divisions would have still been here, I don't know what would have happened. I don't know how they could have attacked through there.
Can you think of anything else you might want to add that you wish you had said later?
No, but you see, we had so much fun after the war. After we left Lake Garda, we had to go up and guard the border so that the Germans couldn't get out of Germany. The war was still going on up in the rest of Europe, in Austria and everywhere else. So we had to go up there and guard the border. However, we didn't have any trouble, so we got to do anything we wanted up there. And we did a little climbing around, did some rock climbing, different things, and we got to stay in there were some nice buildings up there. There's like a little resort right there where Switzerland and Austria and Italy meet, right there in that point. That's where we were. And some of the others were over by Brenner Pass and all these other places. That's particularly where we were. And so that was wonderful to be up there. And then what we did, we came back down out of there, and we had to head for the Yugoslavian border then, because President Tito, or whatever his Premier Tito or whatever he was, I think he was like a dictator in Yugoslavia, he was threatening to go over and capture part of Italy, the Trieste, where Trieste is, that part. And so we went over and started guarding the border, and he gave in. He wouldn't wouldn't attack I mean, he wouldn't try to do that because I think he knew our reputation. But anyway, at that time, we were able to do anything we want because we didn't really head back until August, back to the United, probably late July, I guess it was, that we were heading back. So I had the opportunity to go to a glacier climbing school at the highest mountain in Austria, the Grossglockner. And we got to stay in a place called the Glockner House. And Lieutenant Brower, who was Battalion S2, which is the intelligence officer for our battalion, he had a Jeep. And so he took Kurt Kreiser and I down to the Dolomites, and we did some climbing around Cortina, which was great because there's 3 spires of rock called the Tre Cime de Lavaredo, and we climbed those and had a great time. And just real nice to have Lieutenant Brower as a friend because, we were able to get around and do things that way. And that was an extremely good experience. We loved it. But then, all of a sudden, they decided to send us over to Livorno for a boat to go back to the United States. And just as we were landing, in Virginia, back at Hampton Roads, where we took off from, we got back there. That's when the atom bombs hit, and boy, what a deal. And we thought, oh, we'll go home and get a 30-day furlough and then off to the shores of Japan. Now, what do you think would have happened there? I mean, that would have been pretty traumatic, let me tell you. And so, I've been kind of avid guy in the tent ever since, and what a great bunch of guys. I think they were the most intelligent guys you would ever find in any infantry out there. These are college educated, a lot of them, extremely competent, as was evidenced by what they did after the war. And another guy we had in our company that was relatively famous was Bill Brown, Sarge Brown. He was a sergeant. He stayed in the Army, and then Peter Seibert got him to manage his mountain. He's a mountain manager, so he was extremely thorough and meticulous about how that mountain was maintained, and helped make Vail a great success. So he was another guy that's pretty outstanding in our company.